Okay, so I want to talk about golems and meth and the drug meth, which is very big. It's a very big weapon that these aliens use against people in order to host people to compromise their auras, their psychic self defense system, and and I'm not gonna lie, I was an addict myself a long time ago. I was never hardcore with methamphetamine, but I was doing it, um, and I was doing it for years. But it wasn't. I was never a junkie. I never went. I mean, I wasn't somebody that needed it, or I was somebody that I was an occasional user, and I'm clean now, and I've been clean now for about 4 years, and I've after a while, I mean, it got to that point to where I was forced to give up on the drug. I didn't really make the choice on my own to give up on it, and there's a chance that I would still be doing it too if I wasn't stuck, if I wasn't forced into that situation to where I had to give it up, that or I would lose my own soul, because the attachment on me, I mean, these aliens, they could have never I talk about having this astral attachment on me, and this attachment wouldn't be on me if not for meth use, and so these aliens, they guide people to these drugs. I mean, and I've heard people say, they call drug addicts out there, and then that's one very big way for these reptilians and these Jews and other alien types. They always like to and when you like back when I was following the JOS for years and years, and it got to that point to where I started to actually question the JOS, and stand up against them and call them out on some of the shit that they would say, like for example, their gods. I mean, it's very easy for their gods or these spirits, to telepathically rewire the brain in any way they see fit. I mean, to where a person would no longer be a drug addict, to where they could they could rewire the brain through telepathy to a point to where a person doesn't even crave, that desire, that craving, that addiction would be gone for good. They have that power. They don't use it, of course. Why? Because the JOS would say, well, because they want you to overcome it on your own. And that's far from the fucking truth. For one, humanity is not even aware of the fact that we're in Plato's cave, that we're in a matrix, that we're in the Hotel California, and they can make us aware of that fact, the gravity of the situation that we're in, and because humanity is sleepwalking. We're sleepwalking human beings, and we're sleepwalking in quicksand, and the more we walk into this quicksand, the deeper it gets. And again, this coincides with the boiling frog metaphor, and you only wake up until you start to die, until that panic kicks in, because halfway through your journey, and you're walking on the wrong side of the road, man, on the wrong lane. It's a one-way road, but you're walking on the wrong lane. That's kind of a shitty example, but I think it is true. I mean, I think it's valid, or at least to some extent. And let's say on this wrong side of the road is quicksand, and so you think you're going forward, but you're actually going backwards, and when you hit a certain point, I mean you would be going forward if you understood the gravity of your situation and you weren't asleep, hypnotized. You would know then you're walking in quicksand, but you don't. you continue walking, and you think you're going forward. You know, you're in this sleep-like state, and then you know, and there's some part of you subconsciously that knows, you know, that you're not going forward, you know, but that's the inner voice that us human beings never listen to, you know, until it's always too late. But you know, but you get to this certain point in the road, and you're pretty much waist deep in quicksand, and then half dead. In other words, you know, boiling frog metaphor. You know, by the time the frog, you know, is born into the pot, and because the frog is born into the pot, you never know, you know, that you never. I mean, you've always been in the pot. You've been born in it. I mean, you've never really seen life outside the pot, so you're not really aware of the fact. I mean, you are aware on a subconscious level, but consciously you're not. And so, you know, by the time, you know, shit starts to boil over, or by the time you start to really start sinking in that quicksand waist deep, and that's when your body, your brain starts to kick into that flight or fight, you know, mode, you know. And they say that always happens when you're in like when you're put into a life and death situation. Your brain always kicks into this flight or fight, and that's what happens when you start to you know, die within the Hotel California. When you finally get to the master's chamber to gather for the feast, you are the feast, and then you realize the system as the great beast, and then you're trying to stab it with your steely knife, but you can't kill it. And the only way out then is through death, but you only come back to receive the same programming and the same bullshit guidance that led you, you know, into the master's chamber to begin with, you know. And the fucked up thing is, you know, the door is always there. The door out of the Hotel California is pretty much right in front of you the moment you start on this path. But you know, again, you know, we're asleep, and we don't realize it, man. We don't see the truth, even though it's right in front of us. And so, you know, and I was gonna make a fucking important point too, and I was coming up in making a point. I mean, the reason why I was saying all this and this attachment on me, you know, made me forget. But you know, but that's the whole point behind you know, why they get you on drugs, you know, and the JOS. I mean, you know, we'll sit there and okay, now that point's coming back to me. I was talking about the gods and how they can easily telepathically rewire your brain, into realizing, into waking you up and making you realize the gravity of your situation, that you're walking in quicksand, that you're in a boiling pot of hot water. They don't do that. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they are a literal part of the system, and they are a part of the Matrix. And I really think that Hooded Cobra is either a reptilian, a Jew, or I don't know, but I doubt he's a legit human being, and I know he knows that he's you know, playing people for fools, you know, and he knows what the system is all about. He knows, you know, that he's that these gods that JOS preaches about, they're not real. They don't exist. And they're actually the same you know, enemy ET that they preach against. And you know, in the JOS, one thing about Hooded Cobra, he's very good at the Jew talk too, man. I mean, like, he's a fucking pro at it. You know, and there's some people that used to come to my old Bitchute channel and my YouTube channel, and they used to downplay Hooded Cobra's. Well, I don't really ever anybody doing that, you know, on my YouTube channel when I had it up. But I remember on my old Bitchute channel, there used to be, you know, people that would come over to my Bitchute channel when I would make a video about Hooded Cobra, and they would downplay just how competent he was and how skilled he was in the sermons that he gave, because Hooded Cobra can write some beautiful speeches and sermons, and you know, and it's like he went to school for the shit, you know. And some you know, they talk about these Jews having these you know, these schools, these Hebrew schools where they go to them, and then they're taught you know, like how to argue, with Gentiles, how to, present, their bullshit, like in a very pretty way, and that's what he's good at. I mean, Hooded Cobra reminds me of Sadhguru, the mainstream guru guy from India that you see all over YouTube. His name's Sadhguru. Sadhguru is very good at saying a lot of pretty words, but he never says anything of any real substance behind these words. So you think you're getting something out of it, and you waste about 30 minutes of your fucking time watching one of his sermons or speeches, and you're like, okay, I didn't get nothing out of this. You think you're gonna hear something really, deep and enlightening, and something that would actually help you, realize, wake you up from this spell, that we're all under, by the system, and Hooded Cobra is the same way, in the way that he gives out speeches and all that, and sermons, not so much speeches. He doesn't let his voice really be heard, and I think there's a reason behind that. He probably sounds like a Jew, so he doesn't want people to pick up on his accent, but yeah, which for the same reason I think is the reason why he doesn't show his face either. It could be because he's Jewish. But then again, I don't show my face either. So I'm not gonna be too hard on him for that one. But but unlike me, unlike Hooded Cobra, at least I can entertain to the idea that I could be Jewish, that I could be the enemy, that I could be some reptilian. You'll never ever see Hooded Cobra ever put himself into that spotlight to where to where he would say something like, don't take my word for anything I say, but go out there and do your own research. And then you'd never see him entertain to the idea that he could be, since he's not. One thing about the JOS is that they're not fully willing to prove, what they say. Like when it comes to the existence of their gods, their gods hide behind the system. They never come out. Even though they could manifest themselves right in front of another person, they don't need. This individual doesn't need to open their third eyes to experience the gods. Because the gods can not only work through the fourth dimension, but they could work through. How can I put it, man? You don't need an open third eye because they can manifest themselves through the fourth dimension right here into the third, right in your own living room if they wanted to. They can even telepathically open up your third eye for you to where you can see them, and have telepathic conversations. They can literally talk to you telepathically, and you will know. They have that power, and I brought this up to one of their members. I had an argument with one of their members in emails, and I can't remember his name. It's some German name, but it's one of their avid members at the JOS forums. One of the ones that are constantly, talking and on their ancient forums. And we had a conversation in email. And I told him that the gods can do this, and he said, "Well, yeah, but it would require them, a buttload of energy. They don't have that kind of energy to manifest themselves in somebody's living room or anything like that." He was given, that it might require, for the average person, anyways, to do something like that, as in like how would I put it, to telepathically rewire someone's brain into any way, like to give up a drug addiction, because this same dude tried saying that it would require a lot of energy to even do that. For the average person, for the average human being, that's probably, that's more than likely, it would require, a shitload of energy, but I don't think it's smart though to compare a god, or an ascended master to your average human being, so for one of these ascended masters to manifest themselves in somebody's living room, physically, it would probably for them require just a tiny bit of energy, hardly anything on their end. So once you get one of these astral attachments on you, man, and then the astral attachment itself is pretty much like the quicksand, or the part that finishes really gonna kind of kills that half of you, man, to where you no longer have the spiritual strength to not only pull yourself out of the pot, out of the quicksand, but you also have to fight off the other entities, around the quicksand, around the boiling pot of hot water that threw you in to begin with. And so this is the Hotel California, man. I mean, and so meth pays that way, and that's what these aliens view us as, is golems. Humanity was created as a golem race. The first golems to ever exist, according to this website, was Adam and Eve, and what is a golem? A golem is is a fake human being, they say, an artificial humanoid made of clay, soil, or dust. And human beings are, pretty much robots. We're fake. We're programmed to be that way. We're playing to somebody else's tune. We're not playing to our own tune. And that's the way it's always has been. We're hypnotized under a psychic frequency fence. We always have been, and you don't ever truly begin to realize this until the rabbi sticks that seal on top of your forehead. How did they kill a golem? Okay, so golems were typically, I'm going to read this. Golems were typically speechless and soulless. Any sign the golem performed was considered the sin of its creator. The rabbi could only kill his golem by modifying the word emeth on his forehead to read meth, death, or by removing the parchment from the golem's mouth. Hebrew word emeth also figures in Jewish mythology. In one version of the golem legend, the Kabbalist Elijah Baal Shem of Chelm crafts in clay a man's form, which he brings to life by writing word emeth on its forehead. When he says the golem grows and grows, he realizes that he has a potentially troublesome situation. He knows that if he can erase from the golem's forehead the first letter of emeth, the Hebrew letter X, Aleph, and that looks just like an X, and X is the seal of Saturn. The remaining letters would spell meth, meaning death. The rabbi brings the golem's forehead within reach of his hand by commanding the golem to remove his boots. He wipes the letter off of the golem's forehead, but this golem's clay to collapse upon the rabbi. So, is that not the weirdest fucking coincidence? That you've heard, man. To me it is. If you've walked my path in life and actually being a meth head and seeing that meth has played a very, very big role in to where I now have this astral attachment on me, to where it now has compromised my psychic self-defense system to a point to where, I can't do anything I really used to be able to in terms of meditation, in terms of directing energy, directing spells, blessings, curses. They've totally cut me off through this fucking attachment on me, and this attachment is gonna be my death, if I don't get it off. And so so I just find it super interesting, man, that the word emeth is truth, but if you remove the e and it becomes meth, then that is death in Hebrew. That's super, super interesting. Because, humanity, like I said, was created as a golem race. We were created as psychic exploits. And, of course, these aliens don't want their psychic exploits to become too powerful, to grow and grow and grow, just as the golem, because we are the golems. And so, so the only way that they can keep that from happening is through drugs, like meth. And that's exactly what they did in my position, in my life. And I would say that's what they do to any Gentile, and that they deem powerful enough to that they would deem powerful enough to where they would see this Gentile as a real threat, somebody that is capable of leaving their matrix and then hurting them too. People have no idea. I mean, especially those who follow the JOS, that they really underestimate human potential. Even though they may sound like they you know, I mean, compared to your average JOS, or compared to your typical Christard or atheist or anybody out there, you know, I mean, the JOS has a much better idea to just how powerful human beings truly are compared to these people, but they still underestimate human potential to some extent, to just how powerful human beings truly are and what we're truly capable of. If we weren't bound to this matrix, we can hurt the gods themselves. We have that power, dude. And I've seen it with my own eyes. I'm not just being delusional here. There's a reason why this attachment is on me. There's a reason why they set me on the path that they did.